Welcome to Industry Insiders by Goway podcast series, where Goway brings you stories from industry experts, intrepid travellers, explorers and globetrotters who will inspire you to dream bigger, explore further and discover a new world. Today I'm happy to welcome Amanda Pilar from a company called EXO, and they look after a very new emerging destination for us, for the world, I think it's fair to say, and that is Saudi Arabia. So before we get into all things Saudi, Amanda, you want to give us a bit of background on yourself, please, just so people know who they're talking to or listening to?
Yeah, of course, thank you. So I'm the sales director for EXO Travel North America. So EXO is a global DMC. We established in Southeast Asia, Japan, and we recently expanded to Saudi Arabia. So we partner with travel agents and tour operators and provide all of the on-the-ground services for them. And I'm overseeing our North America partnerships for EXO.
Excellent. So, so the country we're talking about, as we mentioned, is Saudi Arabia. So let's discuss the elephant or the camel in the room, using the regional animals, in regards to Saudi Arabia and its checkered political past, at least. So what I've said to people, what Goway's sort of positioning as, that countries never change unless they're exposed to other people, other ideas. From my understanding, you can help me clarify this or expand on it, the government of Saudi Arabia realises that as well, and they're looking to open their doors and realise change must happen if they want to be sustainable beyond their oil revenues, so they're looking to the future. But again, people may or may not want to look at Saudi as a destination, because that's entirely everyone's choice, but we here at Goway, and obviously EXO, because that's where they're starting to work now, see it as not only a potential great destination, but one that, unless there's some interaction, things will never change. So I personally would love to see the country because of some of its checkered past, and also because of its culture, which is ancient, very, very historic, very rooted in the way things would operate. Is that fair? Like, even someone going now, the culture will have a big bearing on how you behave, interact within Saudi. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, it's still a very conservative country to travel within, so deep-rooted Islamic traditions, but it is extremely dynamic, going through tons of change, and when you go there, you can actually notice it.
Right.
So if anyone goes, now, basically they're getting there before the crowds, and a lot of these changes are recent in terms of dropping a lot of the rules, but then a lot of it might still be a cultural norm as well. So it's really, really fascinating just to learn about, but the people are extremely open to talk about it. And of course, like most destinations within the Middle East, it's not nearly as dramatic as the media portrays. People are open, willing to talk, and I mean, the Saudis are actually very, very well traveled. So a lot of them were educated abroad, they travel internationally. So a lot's changing in terms of the dress rules, the human rights, and we're in the position where, governments and the people of a destination are two separate things.
As you sort of, part of your answer there was before the crowds get there. So with the progressive actions to open the country up in all aspects, let alone tourism. Tourism is one of the best ways, as we sort of alluded to at the beginning. Goway, I think, foresees it being a very popular destination in time, if nothing more than the curiosity factor, which is a driving force for my thought process to wanting to visit. So I think this is also a good opportunity, as you said, to see a new country, well, a very old country culturally, before the crowds get there, because I think in time, maybe it's not as busy as, say, a South Africa or Kenya, but in times it'll get much, much busier, and the infrastructure is being built and is there already for a lot of instances, so get there now or soon would be a good bit of advice, you would suggest?
Yeah, it really doesn't feel touristy at all. You can see a lot of infrastructure being built, but it does feel new, and it is really fascinating. And people aren't used to many tourists being there, honestly. As you mentioned, they were open, but only to Muslim pilgrims. So all of these other areas within the country itself, it's actually brand new to tourism.
So is the country ready for tourism?
That's a really good question. I mean, there needs to be more focus on hospitality and tourism, which there is. So a lot of it is in development. So, the hotels there's a lot of new properties, new sites, but I do feel that it's ready. I mean, the investment's there and the infrastructure's there. So I do think it's ready, but it is new, and going there with some flexibility and an open mind would probably be best.
Well, definitely an open mind for obvious reasons. But I sat in a training that Amanda did for our internal staff a couple of weeks ago, and one thing she pointed out, or two things actually in this point I'm trying to make, is Saudi Arabia sits on the Red Sea, and they've got a lot of Red Sea area, so that's obviously an attraction for anyone, but the Red Sea area is still in development, correct? But as part of that development is a lot of the big famous chains are setting up shop down there, so that's also a sign of getting in while the going's good and getting in early. So the development is there. If someone was to fly tomorrow, the Red Sea would be sort of not a no-go, but an area you probably wouldn't go to because it's still really being developed, whereas other parts of Saudi are basically ready to receive tourists?
Exactly.
Right.
So basically, the Red Sea, you can follow it. There's quite a lot that you can follow online, for example. You can visit the Red Sea from Jeddah, so on a boat trip, for example, but in terms of the actual area of the Red Sea development project and all of the new hotels, that is still more of a 2024, 2025
is the
opening.
target opening.
Yeah.
Now, is that en masse or like just enough of it ready to handle a good number of travelers?
Enough of it to be able to handle a good amount of travelers. They are accepting flights now to the regional airport there.
Okay.
But this is brand new. This recently happened probably last month.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then properties like the Six Senses, opening 2024. So it will be a progression. So technically, you can maybe go there 2024, but that will be, really brand new.
So from your experience, with your interaction with Saudi Arabian infrastructure and I guess bureaucracy, if they say 24, are they pretty good on it will be in 24? Is one of those things like everything is 24 but it only means 25?
That's a really good question. As far as, to be honest, this is a new destination we launched last year. So everything that they've said they were going to do so far, they have done on
They've
time.
delivered on time.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good in itself.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking Saudi Arabia and beach, which may not be the first thing that comes to mind. So let's sort of jump into the cultural aspects here. So you're a female, obviously, and there are obviously a lot of questions about that aspect, but you've travelled to Saudi how many times?
Just the once.
Oh, just once,
Yep.
okay. But it was recently, wasn't it?
Yep.
So as a female, to our female listeners particularly, your opinion as a female travelling in Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, I on purpose didn't do any research because I wanted to go in completely ignorant with a fresh mind. And you can really do whatever you want, just respecting local cultures and conservative customs. So this is very similar to traveling in many places in Asia.
Yep.
So honestly, I was kind of used to that because, you're not going to have public displays of affection, but you can travel, walk, drive, do whatever you'd like. You can dress however you'd like, as long as it's fairly conservative.
Okay, so just on however you like and conservative. So that generally means shoulders and the knees covered.
Yeah, exactly.
Not down to the ankles necessarily.
No.
But it would be nice, no one has to do this, I think you mentioned this in your training, that if you were to be even more modestly dressed would be appreciated, though not necessary, nor will you get into trouble if you were sort of skirt just below the knees.
Exactly. The only place that you would, have to is the holy cities, particularly Medina, where non-Muslims are allowed. When you're in the holy city, you have to dress with full head coverings all the way down to
full head covering,
all
right.
the way down to ankles. But that's if Medina is in the schedule.
Right.
But then aside from that, in the cities, in Alula, in the desert areas, I was wearing kind of like cargo pants and a t-shirt because it's more like adventure touring.
And again, it's accepted and from getting arrested or whatever, because we know, it's like, be honest, some things are viewed much more seriously in not just Saudi, other countries as well. So again, as long as you're not flagrantly disregarding the code, you're fine.
Exactly.
Right.
And, for example, when I was in Medina, my head covering fell off. No one's going to yell at you. They know that you're trying. Same with if you're wearing a baya or a head covering, if you're not wearing it correctly. Like the religious police and what you see in the media, it's not a thing. They're not, there's no tourist police. It's just live and let live. People are kind of doing what they wish,
Okay, so for the head coverings, if you say go to Medina, is bringing something from home, like again, we're talking the females primarily, because men still, to a degree, don't have the same rules.
Yeah.
Like a scarf is enough, or should you buy something local? Or
yeah, a scarf, if you have one and brought it, it would be fine. We do gift our clients with the abaya and the head covering, so they can wear it if they choose to. But I actually do like the experience of going in the shop, because then you get a chance to speak with local women and buy it locally as well. So we do kind of like that experience where you can go on your way and purchase it locally as well.
Right, and Brittany, who's our product manager for Asia and parts of the Middle East, she was there recently as well, and what she was surprised about was, what's the expression for the covering again, the abaya?
Yes.
Abaya. Not just black, there's a wide selection of fashions and colours and the whole thing, so for what it's worth, it's not just everyone walking around, all the females walking around in black, correct?
Exactly, and they used to always be closed, all black, and now you see a lot of open abayas, just kind of over your clothes, and then they do come in different colors. Traditionally, they're not supposed to be too ornate and black, but you do see of all different colors and designs now.
Okay, so if a Globetrotter was willing to, or wanting to, respect it to the full degree and buy an abaya, they can sort of wear it open like a coat almost. Is that right?
Exactly.
Now, when you cover, as a tourist, cover your head as a female, is it the whole thing so you only see the eyes, or is it just covering the hair?
Just the hair.
Just the hair,
yeah.
Okay.
There is, traditionally Saudi women do it with just their eyes out, but it's totally fine in the holy cities just to cover your hair. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm going to use a comparison, because when I was tour guiding in Iran, similar rules, in fact almost identical rules. One thing though on the street is, and you've already touched on it, that the Saudi people are very, very welcoming. They like to interact and want to learn. Same thing for Iran, exactly the same thing. But still on the street, you would not a male would not speak to a strange woman or stranger, and so men would speak to men on the street as travellers, and women would speak to women on the street as travellers. Same rules for Saudi. So a male should not go up and speak to a female on the streets in Saudi as a traveller, correct?
Yes.
Or is that okay?
Yeah, so
or it's okay if there's a male present?
Yeah, so I got spoke to in a total friendly way, like welcome to Saudi Arabia. They can obviously see that I'm a tourist, so they know.
But you as a foreigner speaking to a male?
Yep.
No big deal?
No big deal.
And me as a male speaking to a local Saudi woman, is that okay?
Yes, but local, like if you were to go out in the countryside and maybe just start speaking with Saudi women, legally, it's legal.
Okay, that's what I'm getting at. Legally, there's no issue.
Exactly.
But culturally, it still may be a barrier to some people, areas, whatever.
And I saw quite a mixed bag, if I'm being honest. Okay. People, of course, in the tourism industry and servicing tourists, and a lot of locals were mingling, and open to talk to you, but at the same time, you did see it a little bit with the separation. It's just a cultural thing as well. So I did see a mix, Okay.
Now, and again, in Iran, using that as a comparison, we had a lot of, primarily, strange enough, our female travellers, when they started chatting to other women in the streets, were invited back to their houses that night, which they took the invitation. They found it completely fascinating. Again, there was some separation within the house because they were guests and Westerners, but they saw the Iranian woman without their chadors, as they were called in Iran, and with their makeup on, the full hair, within the confines of the house amongst the females. Is that something you would come into in Saudi, where you might be invited back to a local's house because of the curiosity factor?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We got invited to our colleague's house. So I did go to, a local house. They are a local colleague, and we saw it very similar, where,
Right.
they would dress very conservatively in public, but then once they're there, the headscarf and everything will come right off. So,
Okay, cool. Okay, so Saudi is a country of wealth due to its oil. In reflection in tourism, is it an expensive country to go to? Like, are they building themselves up as a 5-star destination? Is it a budget destination? How are they positioning themselves?
Yeah, so they are building themselves up as more of a 5-star.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily a cheap destination, but it's also can be affordable. They will have the 5-star properties. That's what a lot of the tourism board and certain travel companies might be focusing on, but there are affordable 4-star and 3-star properties as well, cheaper than the US or Europe for sure.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
Therefore, it's not that expensive then if you compare it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cheaper than Europe, yeah.
Yeah.
Do they have a backpacker hostel circuit or equivalencies if someone was really looking to go on the cheap?
That's a really good question. You know what? I don't think so.
Right, okay.
More 3-star, 2-star properties, but not
hotels first, hostel,
yeah,
backpacker.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. So I'm actually starting to, for those listening, building our training module on Saudi Arabia. So a lot of this detailed information will be there soon. Big country. A lot of it's desert, and there's lots of desert activities and things to do. What are the big cities and or sites that someone going right now, or as in right now being the next year or so, that they should be looking at, and what's there to see and do?
There's quite a lot, but just to kind of do the must-sees. So Riyadh, which is the capital. So this is more of like the business hub, but you do get the Al Diriyah UNESCO site, and then the Edge of the World as well, and then the sites within the city. So Riyadh is the best city to dine in, for example, and you get a mix of old and new within Riyadh. And then the absolute must-see is Alula. So it's more inland, and this is where the Nabatean tombs are. So the same as what you see in Petra in Jordan. So the same civilization has their tombs within the Alula area, and this is where Hegra is as well. And it's all about amazing rock formations. Like the valleys and the scenery of what I saw in Alula are the best I've seen in the world for desert scenery. Yeah,
wow,
for sure.
Okay.
And then Jeddah is a coastal city, so it's the second largest city. It has a huge waterfront area called the Corniche, and it has an old town, which is an absolute highlight and must-see as well. There are the holy cities such as Medina, so great to see the pilgrims embarking on the call of prayer. And then there's also areas where you can do desert camping and stuff like that.
Okay, so just for a couple of, just to clarify, because we may have some Muslim listeners with us, Medina, as a non-Muslim, you can visit, correct?
You can visit, you just can't go within the gates of the mosque.
Gates of the mosque.
Exactly.
And you must be dressed a lot more conservatively in Medina compared to other places in Saudi Arabia.
Correct.
And Mecca, unless you're Muslim, is a no-go, end of story.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yep.
fine. Okay, so just for any Muslim listeners out there as well, Goway will not be getting involved in the Hajj or anything like that. It's way too specialised, and there are many companies who just do that and do it better than we ever will. So just an FYI in that respect. So connecting, so we talked like 3 main cities, Riyadh, Jeddah and Alula, for the 3 regions. To connect those 3 on an itinerary, okay, can you do all 3 on in one itinerary in a comfortable time? And how long would you suggest for let's call it the best of Saudi? How many days would you recommend to do all that and do it nicely?
Yeah, so just those 3, I would recommend absolute minimum 6 nights. Ideally 7 nights would work perfect.
Okay, and to connect between those regions, the best way or fastest way would be, I'm assuming, internal air.
Yep, exactly. So pretty good value, hour-and-a-half-ish flights on just a domestic airline.
Okay,
Yeah.
and I do know, but I'm going to ask the question, you can drive between the points, be it private guided transfers, but you can even do car rentals in Saudi Arabia, and it's perfectly safe to drive around on the back road, so to speak. That's, yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's modern roads, no potholes. They do have speed cams, so just watch your speed.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, very, very easy driving, very similar to driving in the US or Canada.
Right, so if you were to either break down or just stop somewhere between two of the points and ask for directions, is the person you're speaking to going to speak English?
For the most part,
most
yeah.
part?
On most of the roads that you would be in, unless you're way off in the countryside, most people do have a pretty good level of English.
Right,
Yeah.
so in general, again, regardless of whether you're driving or flying, English is probably, well, it's Arabic first, but then English would be the next most used language.
Widely spoken, especially within the cities. Yeah.
Sure, okay. And then, so we just, those three areas, Riyadh, Jeddah, and Alula, and then once the Red Sea opens up, you'd look another 2 or 3 days at the end or whatever for a beach downtime. So
Yep.
a perfect best of Saudi when it's rocking and rolling, 2 weeks. Would be fair?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. How do you get to Saudi Arabia?
Good question. So Saudi Airlines is the main national carrier. So they have, some direct connections from, for example, Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, New York. And then a lot of the other Middle Eastern carriers will be some of the best options as well if one of the Saudi flights doesn't work, such as Emirates or Qatar. So
Right.
just a short stopover, and then they will bring you straight into Riyadh or Jeddah.
So which is the most used gateway? Is it Riyadh or Jeddah or equal? Or about equal?
I would say Riyadh just a little bit more because it's the capital and a bit busier and a bit more frequency on the flight schedules. But Jeddah will have good connections from all the major carriers too. Yeah.
Okay, so you touched on cuisine earlier, so Arabic-based naturally. I'm assuming as they're opening the doors to the world that is their cuisine now influenced by Europe and or Asia and or the US? Like fusion dishes, or when you go there you're going to be eating pretty much Arabic-based meals?
It's a good question. I didn't experience any fusion per se because the local restaurants serve the local food and Middle Eastern cuisine, and they're fantastic. But then they have tons of chains as well.
That's what Brittany said. She like saw McDonald's
Yeah.
and Starbucks and the whole thing
Honestly,
throughout.
it was a little bit shocking, especially when I landed in Riyadh and it was tons of chains. So if you don't like Arabic coffee, which isn't to many people's
really
Western
strong, isn't it?
tastes,
Like
yeah.
Turkish coffee, really
I mean,
strong, yeah.
there's Dunkin' Donuts, there's Tim Hortons, there's
Tim
Starbucks.
Hortons, is there? Which, again, that's for our Canadian listeners.
Many.
Tim Hortons, really?
Many.
Many?
Yes,
Wow.
many.
Okay.
So there's everything in between. But the local restaurants, and whether it's very local or more high-end local, will serve Middle Eastern cuisine. Then you can get Japanese restaurants, Italian restaurants.
Okay, so
and
again, if
chains
you're
as
not
well.
into Arabic food,
Exactly.
there are choices. And is Arabic food primarily vegetarian-based, meat-based? Again, combination of all
They
the
have a
above?
good combination.
Right.
They have a good combination. They do eat a lot of meat. Chicken and rice is probably the most frequented
Consumed.
meal. Yeah,
Okay.
a lot of lamb, for example. But they do have really good veggie dishes as well, so it's okay for veggies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, the whole Arabian Peninsula, again, I'm going to broad stroke some history here, sort of came about through the Bedouin tribes, which are different tribes within the regions. I think the Saud family was originally a Bedouin tribe. Do you know that from a historical point of view? Not sure.
No, I'm not sure.
I think it was, don't quote me on it, but I think that's sort of...
I think that's
They're one of the
right.
tribes who rose to power for a whole lot of different reasons. But anyway, but the Bedouin culture is very, very prominent in the Arabian Peninsula. I've experienced it in Syria and in Jordan. So the question is, can you have a Bedouin experience in the deserts within Saudi Arabia? Like go out in the desert and camp with a Bedouin tribe?
That's a really good question. I don't know if it's specifically a Bedouin experience, but there is desert camping, and it's
Okay.
absolutely amazing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And I've noticed through your, as in the tourist board's promotional stuff, there's a lot of adventure active stuff, like there's dune bashing, horseback riding, mountain biking, a whole lot of very active stuff on the assumption, I learnt this recently, you don't go in there summertime, which is, pardon the Australian expression, stinking hot. And like 50 degrees Celsius it can get to, which is 120 something
Yeah.
Fahrenheit, which I don't think anyone wants to do. But in the, I guess, spring, winter, fall is, okay, when's the best time to go? Spring, winter, fall?
Yeah, so exactly. Basically from October through to like March, April
Right.
is a great time,
Yeah, now you can go in there summer, but it's just really, really hot. And almost everything's air conditioned, I believe.
Yes,
Like again, from a
everything.
tourist point of view, but really going outside in 50-degree heat to go mountain biking would be stupid and not comfortable.
Yeah, so for if someone had to travel in the summer, it will be probably half the price as far as hotels.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
So an amazing value. It's very hot, so it would actually make sense to do a slightly longer trip and touring just in the morning
Okay.
before the midday
Midday
heat
sun kicks in.
hits, because it is very hot.
Do they, because it's like an equivalent to a winter somewhere, like in Patagonia, it's a lot more than it used to be, but Patagonia generally shuts down at winter time because it's just miserable. To Saudi and services shut down over summer because less people are doing things, be it locals, be it foreigners. So like if I went in summer, would I be able to go horseback riding or whatever? Or that will still run over that period?
Yeah, it's still running. It's just quiet.
Just quiet.
Yep. So
Quieter.
same exact tours, same exact options, just quieter.
Okay, just quieter.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And cheaper.
And cheaper.
Nice. Okay. So we touched on accommodation, cuisine. Visas. You do need a visa as a Canadian or US passport holder. So how do they work, please?
Yeah, so it's just an online e-visa, very simple, very straightforward. You fill out the questions online, nothing's out of the ordinary. You upload your photo. It's around 140 US, which includes compulsory medical insurance, so that's already included in the visa. You submit it, around 30 minutes later, you have it in your
So
inbox.
it's done pretty much on the spot.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to just touch on two things. It does include medical insurance, but to our travel agents out there, please do not rely solely on that insurance to cover your clients. They should still buy normal travel insurance on top of that. And we have the same sort of setup for Peru trips where you get insurance included, but it's not full travel insurance, so don't have your clients rely on that when they hear that. Two, I believe that's also that's a multi-entry visa should someone want to come back and forth.
Yep, so it's good for a year,
Good
multiple
for a year.
entry.
Okay. So on that note of multiple entries, what country can you combine with Saudi within the region there? Like, I guess the other Arab Emirates would be
Yes.
Dubai, Qatar, etc. would be
Exactly.
options.
So I expect Jordan to be the most
Of course, yeah.
common combination.
And that'll be connected by air.
Yep, and you can do overland as well.
Oh, you can?
Between Jordan and Saudi.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yep, Egypt, or like you mentioned, a lot of people are flying with Emirates or Qatar, so they might do Dubai or Doha, for example.
Right.
And then they can also connect before the Red Sea is open to. We've had clients do Maldives, for example, because they're
Really?
already on the carrier to get them there.
Yeah, because that's for those who may not know, getting to the Maldives is often via the Middle East. So I'm sure Saudi will build in flights to and from there as well. So that's a good point that Maldives way there, way back. Yeah, on our website already we have with our new Saudi product combinations of Saudi and Jordan. And Saudi and Egypt, or Saudi, Jordan and Egypt, which is the ultimate Middle Eastern combination, like the old and the new. You can't get much more than the old and new with those three countries built together. Okay, so the e-visa is nice and simple. I think I read on the Saudi website too that if you're something about under 18, it's coming into the country unaccompanied. Is that something like that? If people are travelling with kids, that's all fine. Still an e-visa for the kids. There's no age. I read something about an age limit. I'm mixing things up, so I won't go on and mislead people. Okay. Single travellers or a guy and a girl travelling together who aren't married or whatnot, is that an issue in Saudi Arabia in any way?
Not an issue in any way, no.
Would you be questioned about your relationship at check or anything like that, or it's just whatever, two people signing in?
No, exactly. It's two people signing in. Yeah. So all those rules and laws were dropped, and they're...
When were they dropped? Like recently?
Pretty recently, yeah.
And again, this is the conscious effort of the kingdom, because it's technically the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and often referred to as the kingdom. That's their steps to literally open the doors to their country and adapt in baby steps, but steps nonetheless in the right direction.
Exactly.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to enlighten us about Saudi Arabia?
No, I mean, like I said, just go with an open mind. If you can go now. It's really a cool country in transition, so it's really amazing to see. A nice shoulder season, not too hot, not too cold, not too expensive. But no, it's really a fascinating place to see. So the people and the scenery. So go before if you can.
I haven't been there, but I agree with 100% what Amanda's saying for a couple of reasons. One, when I'm asked about my time as a tour guide, what's your favourite country, there's reasons, but I find some of the most welcoming countries have always been the ones that are perceived in the press primarily as, I'm doing the air quotes here, dangerous or politically nasty. Pakistan, Iran and Colombia. And they've been, like all countries, I've never felt unwelcome, but those three in particular, considering the reputations, have been the most welcoming, open to conversation, to cross-pollination of ideas and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think, as you touched on before, what you see in the press, there's some validity to it. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but that's a small aspect of the country. And the average person is just wanting to get on, have a good time, have a nice life, talk to people, learn from each other.
Exactly.
I was going to say something else too, but I've lost my train of thought as the subway goes underneath us here. But yeah, I was talking to Warren, who has a company called Drifters, an overland company in Africa. I'm an ex-overland driver. And as we finished our interview, I sort of said, Warren and I could go on forever about, Ken and I could go on forever about stories from the road back in the day. And Ken said, we were so lucky to travel when we did, because we were talking about how rules have changed and countries have changed, sometimes for the better, sometimes for not. So your aspect of getting there now, when it's in transition, will be amazing in itself, let alone what the country becomes down the track. So I think it's definitely worth a consideration for any globetrotter out there who has an interest in the Middle East. I think Amanda would back me up. I haven't even been there. It's a fascinating country to visit, to learn.
It is. It's very dynamic. Me and my colleagues, we all went for the first time last month, and now we all want to go back because we want to see how it's changed from last time and see how things develop and see areas that we haven't seen before. I mean, it's huge.
Yeah. It's a huge territory, and I think one thing I've learned through my time in travel is the Middle East, particularly, obviously, they have the resources and the funds to do it. They don't screw around when they decide to do something. Like Qatar and Dubai came from deserts to mega cities. Saudi, when they do things, they get it done. So it'll probably change very quickly as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay, Amanda, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. I know you've regurgitated this information a few times over the last couple of weeks, and we'll probably continue to do so as you train and open the eyes of everyone to Saudi Arabia. Really appreciate your time. Thank you very much. Everyone out there, again, our destination specialists have been trained by our in-house expert here, Amanda, on all this information, so please give us a call. We can help you with any questions you may have. And if we don't know the answer, we'll go to Amanda because she will have the answers for us, and we can create the best of Saudi Arabia trip for your intrepid adventurers out there. So again, thank you, Amanda.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.